Takazani, Dimelang, Kanyali Sedi. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the one-on-one sessions with Gago Musore. Ooh, he has filters. I didn't know Facebook had filters, guys. Anyways, where was I? Okay, I hope you guys are good. I hope you guys are having a beautiful Friday. Today we're having a live session whereas we're talking about different tips. Okay, let me leave this alone. Different tips on how to actually strengthen one's spiritual gift, right? So this is something that is very useful not only for spiritually gifted people, or not only for like people who are sangomas and prophets and all that only, but it's also very useful for people that have spiritual gifts. Takazani Sipo, I'm glad you joined us. I hope you're good. Yeah, so as I was saying, today's topic, Tokozani G-Man, Tokozani Vuyo, Makosi, Vuyo. I hope you guys are good. Okay, let me just wait for people to come in first before I start talking. I'm very impatient. But yeah, for those of you guys that popped in, today's topic is different tips on how to strengthen your gift, right? So basically, this is not something that is only useful for us sangomas only, but also people that have spiritual gifts and also people that like to tap into spirituality, connect with their ancestors, connect with the universe. Hi Rufaro, I hope you're good. Yeah, so this is gonna be useful for every single person, right? Because understand that spirituality is not a one shoe fits all, and spirituality doesn't only accommodate those that have spiritual gifts, but every single person is very spiritual. Né? African Fairy, I'm so glad I didn't miss the session today. I'm glad you didn't too. At least I managed to notify everybody. Yeah, so as I was saying, spirituality is not something that only works for people that are spiritually gifted. Even those that aren't spiritually gifted, we are all spiritual beings basically. Né? It's just that others are called to help people, while others are called to help their families, while others are called to live their life purpose and achieve certain spiritual things at the end of the day, right? So this is where as it is very important to do certain things for yourself on a regular basis, just to ensure that you do not you do not lose your spiritual connection, right? You don't lose your inner child, your inner conscious, in order to connect with the universe, your ancestors, your angel guides, and whatnot, right? So these are the things that I'm going to be talking about. Different things that actually work best into like that you can do for yourself in order to make sure that you're able to strengthen your spiritual gift, whether you're in initiation or not, right? And this is something that's going to be useful for those people by longer. You know, you have a spiritual gift. Initially, you find that you see a lot of things, but as time goes on, you stop seeing things, right? You stop remembering your dream, you stop remembering what your ancestors are telling you to do. Sitting like sangomas, prophets, they're not able to see what you're supposed to do. That's because you're not feeding into your gift the way that you're not supposed to, right? But before I enter into this topic completely, I want to emphasize certain things, right? My way of feeding and strengthening your gift does not use any spirits that are not your ancestors, right? These are common things that every single person can do on a regular basis. These are common things that you can do even right now as I'm talking, you can do them, right? Because I do not use any forms of spirits to give people strength and whatnot. So those are things that I do not dabble in, right? So meaning that this entire live session we'll talk about things that are not like that. But by the way, guys, before I even get into the different tips, I do want to note down the fact that I'm only going to be here for like around 30-40 minutes, meaning that our session will not have a Q&A unless if I'm able to finish this entire list early, right? The good thing is that I didn't write anything down. So the first thing is that it's very important for a spiritual person or a person in general to eat certain spiritual foods, right? So spiritual foods are not foods de longore. They need to be prepared in a special way. Their everyday food is just that they are food that actually like doesn't have a lot of meat. So people with spiritual gifts, you are very much advised not to eat too much meat, and especially pork. So pork is one of the meat longore. It has a lot of sins in it, right? That is what is said throughout the Bible and whatnot, but we're not talking about in the Bible way, but in our tradition, right? Pork, when you're eating food like pork, right? So it's often advised that spiritual people do not eat a lot of meat, and especially with pork, you cut off pork completely because the more you eat pork, the more longer you're closing your spiritual gift. So that makes it very difficult for your ancestors to come through and speak to you, right? But it can happen that you're someone who loves meat. Now, for example, I love my meat, right? I love food. I eat everything. right? So I do eat those things, but the one thing that I do for myself to allow myself to be able to connect with my ancestors, my spiritual guides when I'm consulting, and even when I meet up with people, and even when I do specific rituals, is that I always make sure that I cleanse myself on a weekly basis, right? But that is not something that everyone can do because we are not all sangomas, right? Some of you guys are called to be sangomas or called to be prophets, but you don't have access to the herbs right now. So I'd advise that instead of eating those things, you can limit it at least once a week, twice a week. And this is whereas you're going to incorporate a lot of maize, brown maize in your food, a lot of fruits and veggies in your food. These are the food, when you do eat them, they are not in any way going to affect your ancestors. As a matter of fact, when you do eat them, what they do is that they strengthen your spiritual gift, they strengthen your power. That's why you'll be able to connect with the ancestors with a lot of ease. Okay. The second tip that I have is meditation, right? So this is where, as Linnan, this is something that I do all the time. You can go out, initiate or not initiate, it's nobody's business, right? But one of the best ways in which you can connect with your ancestors or strengthen your gift, the main thing is strengthening your gift, right? Meditating is actually one of those things, right? Because when you meditate, you put yourself in a very, how do I put this? In a state in between the living and the spiritual. Ne? And this particular state allows you to strengthen your third eye and strengthen your crown chakra. Remember that the third eye and the crown chakra, as much as the other chakras are also important, but these two chakras are the ones that like allow or rather help with proper connection with your spiritual guides, your ancestors, your angels, whatever spirits that are working with you. Okay. So when you do something like things like meditation on a regular basis, and you don't even have to go through the entire meditation procedure like from A to Z, you can do something as simple as breathing techniques prior to your sleeping, right? This calms your body enough to allow your consciousness to be able to tap into like the other planes, spiritual planes, which is the other planes, which is the spiritual plane for us, right? And that will later on allow your ancestors and your spiritual guides to speak to you. This is whereas a lot of people that use mediumship, a lot of people that use psychic mediums, right? What they do is that on a regular basis they would meditate on a daily basis. Every day in the morning they'd wake up, they clean their surroundings, and they would meditate. The reason for doing that is just so they will be able to connect with whatever spirits and whatever ancestors want to speak to them today, because they don't use divine bones like I do, right? So reading divine bones is pretty simple from my own perspective. I don't know about other people, but it's pretty simple. So it doesn't really allow me to, like, it doesn't really force me to throw my bones on a regular basis. But for people that have not yet entered initiation, meditating on a regular basis is something that can actually help. And in your meditation, be very intentional, right? There are meditations that are just meditation in general. And then there are meditations for causes, like meditation for opening, balancing, and activating your chakras. Those are your major ones, right? Meditation for connecting with your consciousness. That is something that you also need to look at a lot, right? Meditation for past life connection, connecting with your past self or your future self. That's also a good one to look at, man. And meditation for connecting with the universe, your life purpose, and also your spiritual guides and ancestors. That is also something that can actually help a lot in terms of actually activating or rather strengthening your spiritual gifts, because you will be meditating with a purpose of connecting with your inner self and connecting with your consciousness and connecting with your ancestors. So that will actually strengthen the gift that you have, man, to a point whereas you might even have a gift that is like this, but the more you do these things, right, the stronger your gift is going to be at the end of the day. Hi Ningi, I'm so happy you joined us. I'm so happy you're here, right? So as I was saying, I'm talking about the tips to actually help with connecting with your ancestors. The first one was eating. So the second one's the one we're on right now, which is meditation, right? So this is where, as this particular type of meditation that are done with purposes are the ones that strengthen a spiritual gift. That is what I was saying. What it is not things, Jay Longoro, you have to go above and beyond to do. Right? Yes, there are instances where as you're gonna have to go to a sangoma, go to a prophet, initiate parola moya and all that, but these are minor things that can actually strengthen your gift in a way that you cannot even like understand, right? And also in terms of meditation, I'll also advise people by Longore, your gift is more of a psychic gift than a traditional gift, to also practice things like scrying, right? So scrying is basically the mediumship way of actually like writing down, like just scribbling around the book, right? And when you scribble around the book, you're not writing anything important, but rather you are clearing your mind, right? That way, when your mind is cleared as you're doing the scrying, spirits can come to you and communicate with you and speak to you, right? So that is something that is very useful. And the third one is being open about what you are told to share with other people. This is the third thing that strengthens a person's gift, right? I always found that a lot of people, Thokozani Stolise, Thokozani Sitolile, Stolile. Your name is always hard for me to pronounce. And Thokozani Helen, I hope you're good. The third one is actually being open about what your ancestors, the messages that your ancestors want to relate to, right? So oftentimes I find that there's a person, this person has a spiritual gift, they are not yet initiated, but they see things, right? And they're given messages and warnings from their ancestors about other people that they know of and some that they don't know of. And these people, what they do is that there's a lot of fear that comes into play with this, right? Because, okay, Lynn, I'm not going to judge anybody because I've been there myself, right? You see these things, you're not a Sangoma, you don't know what to do with this information, right? But you're told specifically that this and this is going to happen to so and so. You're afraid to tell this person, you don't know their reaction, you don't know whether they'll be accepting or they'll be mean about it, because people can be very rude. But the thing is, especially with the prophetic gift, what happens is that most of the times your ancestors will give you minor tasks of actually sharing messages to people, right, to help them. And these messages are not exactly coming from your ancestors, but they're messages coming from those people's ancestors, right? So the more you are open and you share and you tell these people why it is that your ancestors are showing you about them, it is the stronger you'll be. Because the minute you decide to keep a certain information to yourself, this is where as your ancestors are going to say, okay, this person doesn't want to do the work or is not willing to do the work, right? And your reasons for not sharing it is valid. But remember, when you're a spiritual person, you have a main task. Your main task is to help people, right? Not sit with their information and just chill and do nothing, right? So when you actually get to a point where as your ancestors feel as though you are not willing to actually like do your duty to relay messages the way that they were sent to you, then automatically those ancestors move back. Automatically you've weakened your own spiritual gift. That is one way in which you weaken your spiritual gift. So sharing the messages that your ancestors give you is very important. But if instead you have this innate feeling that, okay, this person I can share with them, but their reaction may not be the one that I need, you can either opt for praying for them, but that is only if your ancestors agree with it. There might be times where as your ancestors just want you to share the message, and that's exactly what you're going to do regardless of the message. And one thing that I want to actually share with people that encounter this type of thing, either thing out, regardless of what your message is, right? People do not respond very well to sangomas and prophets and like messages from the ancestors. So that reaction to whatever it is you tell them, it is not a reflection of how they see you, but it's how they see spirituality in general. So the fact that you said what you said, then automatically you freed yourself from this burden of this entire drama that is following this person, and you can move forward to other things, knowing very well that your ancestors are well connected with you and your ancestors are happy with you, and automatically you'll be able to share messages, right? And another thing, Gore, which is number 4, right? You'd find that you're a person who has a spiritual gift and automatically your dreams stop and whatnot. And other times this could be because of what is in your system, right? What is in your system? This could be the presence of muti, the presence of negative energies and entities, right? So in this case, I'm talking about things like suggestion, right? So this is whereas I'd say that use certain things like off the counter things that are free to everyone to use, things like Impepo. Those things are very useful in terms of helping strengthening a person's gift, right? And things like Impepo can actually help your ancestors and allow your ancestors to come and speak to you. Now, there are certain people along they make Impepo tea, right, with either milk or fresh milk or water, right? And automatically, not only does this strengthen your dreams and your gift, but it also gives your ancestors a safe passage to come and speak to you. So this is a very simple remedy that I've already shared with a lot of people, and it actually works a mouthful, right? Because the minute you do it, right, you'd find that completely you're not having any dreams, you're not having any spiritual revelations. But when you do it, then this is where as your dreams and your visions come through. Yeah? This is where as even your ancestors, they're able to come to you and speak to you and tell you exactly what it is that you need to do in order to strengthen or rather appease them. And for some people, especially the ones that are prophetically gifted, you'd find that by doing that alone, it allows your ancestors to speak to you and be so upfront with you that you don't even have to go to anybody to activate or activate your prophetic gift at the end of the day, because you've already used the major help that can actually open your gift to a certain extent, right? Number 5, from my knowledge. So basically, guys, I don't have anything written down. So I'm just going to tell you things the way that they are. And if you feel like I forgot something, please let me know. But number 5, it's actually prayer, right? So prayer is not only for fighting battles, it is also for strengthening gifts, right? The fact that people go to mountains, they go to rivers, they go to spiritual places and they pray, right? They're not only praying for God and their ancestors to protect them and be with them, they are also praying to strengthen their gifts. That is whereas if you listen to every single healer's prayer, name, they always call those ancestors and they ask them for strength, name, because we as when you're a sangoma or a prophet or a traditional person and you're doing things without adding any other extra spirits, then automatically the only spirits you're going to call on to is the ones that are working with you, right? And this is where as your prayer is something that is needed on a daily basis. That is why I always tell people that it is very important for you to pray every single day, right? Even if you find yourself that you're not able to partner every day, just don't skip your prayer time, because automatically when you pray, you're able to unblock spiritual blockages of some extent, to some extent, right? So especially when you're doing this spiritual prayer of asking for strength in your spiritual gift, right? It is also important to actually incorporate the candles that are actually good for calling on those particular ancestors that are working with you, so they can be able to activate and be activate and help your gift become stronger. These are candles like the blue candle, the yellow candle, the brown candle is also a spiritual candle, and the purple candle, right? The white candle is a plus. And one of my favorite candles is the silver candle. So the silver candle is actually a feminine energy candle, right? This is where as you are connecting with the feminine energy. And one thing that I feel like people are not really much aware of is the fact that as much as we have the masculine and the feminine energy, in spirituality, the feminine energy tends to be a lot stronger than the masculine energy, right? So when you also do your prayers connecting with your feminine energy, whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter about your gender, right? That is something that can actually strengthen your gift to a point whereas your prayer alone can actually help unblock certain things, or even give your ancestors the opportunity to guide you in showing you what is it that is making your spiritual gifts weaker, right? And Lorna, another thing that I also want to add on to that, get that thing out, understand that a person can have initiated a long time ago and be a sangoma for a long time ago, but if you do not do the things that I've mentioned, if you do not pray, if you do not constantly like check what it is that you're eating, you weaken your gift. That is why you find that someone initially they were very powerful, then as time went on, they're not as powerful as they used to be, or other people are like, oh, this person's not powerful anymore, they don't see anymore. That is because they stopped maintaining or rather feeding onto their gifts the way that they're supposed to, and that actually leads to actually like losing your spiritual power to an extent. I don't know if I should say losing your spiritual power, but yeah, that's it, right? So another tip for actually strengthening your gift, which is number 6, right? And this one is actually the safest, right, for everyone to do: going to the mountains, name. So the ancestors understand that it is very important to ground yourself when you're a spiritual person, right? Grounding yourself is allowing yourself to connect with the soil, the earth, nature, right? So when you do things like going to the mountain, that is actually a very good way in which you can actually strengthen your gift, right? And you don't just go there, right? You can go there, you can partner, you can pray, but being surrounded by things like the mountains can actually help, because remember, they are ancestors of the mountains, right? They are ancestors of the rivers. So the rivers, I wouldn't necessarily advise everyone to go there because they do have their challenges and they can be very, very risky. But the mountains are things that I would advise every single person to go there constantly, right? Even if you're not spiritually gifted, right? You can still go to the mountains, you can pray there, connect with your ancestors and your spirits there. And that is actually very good, because the more you do that, the stronger you become spiritually, right? And for people by longer, you have a spiritual gift, maybe you went and initiated, but your gift is not active. Maybe something was not done right during your initiation, going to the mountains can actually do a massive deal for you, whereas you are able to connect with your ancestors in ways that you did not expect yourself to, right? So the mountains are your best friend. Go there, pray there, partner there, do whatever you want, ground yourself when you're there, walk barefooted when you're there. That is actually very good, right? And number 7, connecting with the sun and the moon, right? So I'm not someone who is into like moon rituals and stuff like that. Yes, I know them, I do them sometimes, but I'm not into them, right? But there's something called sunbathing in a spiritual manner, which is actually like just lying down and connecting with the sun, right? So this is where, as understand that the entire world that we live in, it is a spiritual platform, right? And it allows you, you can connect with your ancestors or strengthen your gift by doing the minor things. Just sitting under the sun, right? You know, we melanin people, we get that sun all the time. Okay, let's go up. But just sitting under the sun, right? It actually allows your third eye and your visions to be stronger and clearer. That actually feeds your spiritual gift. That strengthens your spiritual gift to an extent that you don't even you don't even know how, right? But the sun is a very great source of energy, spiritual energy, and the same applies to the moon, right? So the moon, you can't really bathe in the moon, but you can drink things like moon water, water that you left out in the full moon. You can use crystal stones that have been engulfed with the moonlight and stuff like that. So these are things that I feel like a lot of people don't even think of doing, but this is actually very good in terms of strengthening your gift, in terms of strengthening your spiritual self, right? Number 7, going to the rivers and the pororo, right? So spiritual waters generally, they help strengthen your gift, right? But there are also certain spiritual waters, when you go to, they strengthen your gift to a very high level, right? Because every spiritual water has its own purpose, and I've spoken about it a lot, right? But there are specifically three, sorry, three that I would advise a person to go to, especially if you are like someone who has a spiritual gift, you've initiated, but maybe you feel like you're not seeing things properly, right? Going to these three specific rivers can actually strengthen your gift so your ancestors can come to you and speak to you, even if you were blocked, right? By doing this or going to these places, you'll automatically start unblocking your gift bit by bit, right? And more frequently you do it, the more you'll be able to unblock your spiritual gift more, right? So firstly, running water, mitsawelela, right? So this water is the water that people go to and bathe in and all that. So you don't have to get inside, but going inside this water is actually like a game changer for you, right? Going inside and bathing in that water, you're taking away anything that is actually like blocking yourself, your gifts, your blessings, right? Yes, most of the times when we go to this river, we go there with a purpose, with muti, and we bathe with that muti when we're in the water. But even if you just go there on your own without any muti, it can still do its job. It's just that you might need to go there more frequently, right? But make sure that you take the necessary precautions. You don't go there without cleansing yourself. You don't go there uchla feji by, and when I'm saying uchla feji, this whereas you ate meat or pork, or you had intimacy like a day or 7 days prior, like in between, in the middle of 7 days, right? So going into the running water, bathing there, or just standing next to it and praying can actually help you. It strengthens your gift name. The second water is actually the pororo, the waterfalls, right? So spiritual waterfalls are the best when coming to strengthening your gift. They are the best in terms of bubula moya, and I don't know why people don't go to them more often. I really don't, right? But by just going there, when you're letting the water like fall down on your face and you're praying, you're speaking to God and your ancestors and you're connecting with them, that strengthens your gift to a point. Whereas after that, right, one thing that I've noticed, good after usually after going to the waterfalls, visions come there rapidly and faster and stronger, right? And a lot of people that manage to go there before they initiate or when they're waiting to be shown where it is that they can initiate, by just going there, that is whereas after that you're gonna be able to see clearly where you need to go and when you need to go, how you need to go through your entire spiritual procedure, right? So lo I get that thing out. When you go to spaces, spiritual spaces, you go there with intentions, right? You go there with clear intentions and clear, like your mindset has to be on a specific goal. That's where, Lord, you'll be able to get the results that you're looking for. And the third type of spiritual water that I recommend for strengthening your gift is actually the CD, right? So CD is basically called, yeah, it's a spiritual pond. Yeah. So even that place, like the water there is very good in strengthening a person's spiritual gift. That is why you find that every single year, especially in the beginning of every year, we sangomas, prophets, spiritual people, we go to the spiritual rivers, name. We collect their waters. We do all these rituals in those places, name. That is not just because it's the new year. We just want to go there clean. Like, yeah, we want to enter the new year clean and we want to collect our blessings for the year, but we also want to strengthen our gifts, right? That way, throughout that entire year, we're going to be able to connect and speak with our ancestors without having any issues whatsoever, right? So the spiritual waters and rivers are the perfect places whereas you can, like, that you can use to strengthen your gift. And the best part about them, Gordon, you can go there at least 3 times a year, right? Just 3 times a year, and it already has a lot of impact on your spiritual gift and your spiritual calling and the strength that you have spiritually. Okay. Number 7, is it number 7, number 8? One of the two, right? So number 8, in terms of strengthening your spiritual gift, constantly doing cleansings, right? So this is something a longo, okay, not a lot of us have access to cleansings, or not a lot of us know why people do cleansings, right? So firstly is to actually remove any form of muti in our body, remove those things, and so they can go back to whoever sent them, or just go roam elsewhere without bothering us, right? But for other people, because not specifically, like, I do cleansings, like I said when I started the video, I do my cleansings on a weekly basis. Basically every Monday in the beginning of every week, I cleanse myself, right? I do spiritual rituals of protection, of strengthening my gift and all that, and the cleansing is one of them, right? And the reason why cleansing yourself is very important is because understand that there's a lot of things that we've come through throughout our lives, right? And even though it's not muti that is sent to you, because not all of us are being attacked by muti, right? Other times you'd find that your spiritual gift is not strong because of the energies that are surrounding you, right? Understand that we are energetical beings. Spiritual gifts are energetic, they are transferred. You come into a room with people with malicious intent and hatred and a lot of darkness in their surroundings. That darkness tends to actually hover around a person at the end of the day, right? So that is why we actually do cleansings on a regular basis to remove all of that, right? Because the minute you allow a lot of negative energy around you, then automatically it makes your spiritual gifts not work properly. That is why you'd find a person, like I find people coming to me a lot on this tip, Gogo, I went to this particular place, I did a cleansing, and everything was clear. I saw everything. I saw my ancestors, I saw my spiritual duties, and after months, that is whereas I stopped seeing anything, but I never went back there to cleanse again, right? So the thing was that after cleansing, the fact that you were able to remove anything, any external force that was hindering your spiritual sight or your spiritual gift, you were then able to actually strengthen your gift to a point whereas, like, your ancestors were able to connect with you. But given the fact that you took some time without actually doing it again, then that actually affected your spiritual gift to a point whereas now it's blocked again, not because of muti, but because of the energies that you're surrounded by every single day. And bear in mind, we're surrounded with different energies on a regular basis. Even as sangomas, we're surrounded with a lot of energies, like people we consult, people we encounter when we're walking around and all that. Those things can be very hectic and heavy on your spirit and your spiritual gift to a point whereas you are not able to connect with your ancestors and your spirits the way that you're supposed to. You're not able to strengthen your gift. Automatically your gift starts declining, né? Your spiritual side starts to decline, and that is where as we actually go back to the drawing board, cleanse ourselves again, back to square one, right? Over and over again. So it might feel as though it's a task, but it's actually a good thing because the more you cleanse yourself, you don't allow any negative energy to hinder your success and your progress, right? And the more you don't allow anything to hinder your success and your progress, then your spiritual self is going to succeed, and even your career, your love life, everything generally in your life is going to move forward successfully at the end of the day, right? So it's very important to make sure that you're always clearing yourself, right? And in the process of cleansing yourself, there are things like aramela, mpepo. Those things are also good. Remember, mpepo calls the ancestors. Anything that calls the ancestors strengthens your gift, right? And another thing that I'm also going to point out on in terms of things you can do to actually allow your spiritual gift to actually be stronger, right? You see, there's this thing where people burp, sangomas burp, and there are those that actually cover it or try to like mute it. Stop doing that. I see people doing that a lot, and I'm like, no, don't do that. When you allow yourself to burp, you are like sort of like letting out moya wa gago, ne? And the more you do it, you're allowing your ancestors to be able to speak to you. So that is actually very good, right? So it strengthens your gift in a way your ancestors are able, because remember, the spirit, or rather the energy of your ancestors, depending on the type of ancestors, right? So the Mdawe ancestors are on your lower abdomen, moving upwards. That is where they are situated, on your root chakra, right? Your prophetic ancestors are mainly on your chest. Now, that is where at part of it we say, they're on your chest, moving outwards, upwards, right? It can be outwards to your mouth, your throat chakra, or your crown chakra, or your third eye chakra. Ne? It depends on how they want to speak to you. When they come through on your throat chakra, that is where as like moya, right? And you do the whole thing of screaming, going up and down, yada yada yada. And at the end of the day, you start speaking things, right? While others, when it goes to your third eye, you jump into a state of seeing visions, right? And when they go to your crown chakra, this is where as you can astral project and start traveling through like spiritual planes, and that is also a good way in which you strengthen your gift, right? So do not do things that can actually block your ancestors to an extent, right? Number 9, things you can do to strengthen your gift, right? So this is a tip that I'm basically going to give mostly to people that are spiritually, that have went through initiation, right? Buying everything that they're showing you to get. I'm not gonna say everyone should do this, because there are certain people who have spiritual gifts, right, that are shown beads and cloths and whatnot, but there's still a lot of separation within amongst their ancestors, right? So they cannot really get everything they see on the like in their dreams, like beads, cloths, and whatnot, because some of these beads and cloths can end up blocking other ancestors that have not yet showed them what they need to get. But for us spiritual people, while longer you may have already initiated, it is very important to constantly, like when you see something, or when you're like your spirit tells you, oh, you need to get something, you go ahead and you get it, right? Because it might be a new ancestor or a new spiritual guide, spiritual guide coming into the mix, right? So the more you get the things that are needed, the better. That is where as you'll be able to connect with all your ancestors. For instance, Name Sangoma, when I came back from my initiation, I had a lot of stuff, but not too many things, right? Then afterwards they started wanting a lot of things, a lot more things, right? And I've noticed that the more I get these things, and I do procedures and rituals connect with them, the stronger my spiritual gift becomes, the more clear messages are when I speak to people, when I connect with people. It is because of those things that I was shown to get, and I managed to go and get them and connect with them. It allowed access for other ancestors of the light to actually come through and speak to me and communicate with me. That actually gave me strength in terms of my spiritual gift, in terms of my spiritual journey, and in terms of connecting with the spirits that are working with me. Ne? Number 9, I would say Wupasa, right? So Wupasa, yes, usually I tell people that parting is something like when you're slaughtering a goat or a chicken, right? Usually with the goat ceremony, I advise people to do it at least once a year, right? But there are simple rituals of whereas you can slaughter a chicken, right? So by slaughtering a chicken, you are giving thanks to your ancestors, and you call on other ancestors as well, and that also strengthens your gift as well, right? So by doing that, like at least every 3 months, do that, right? Every 3 months maximum, do that. And every time, once a year, slaughter a goat for your ancestors, right? And the best thing, God, okay, usually a goat often represents the traditional ancestors, and things like chickens, they represent man, the water spirits, and they also represent the prophetic spirits. That is also important, right? And number 11, which is something that is so important, I almost forgot to say it, right? Going to church, right? So personally, I've mentioned this so many times. If anyone says, my clean, let's go to church, I'm gonna run the opposite direction. I'm not a church person, guys, name. But going to church actually strengthens your gift. Because I remember when I was initiating, right? So when I was initiating, it was both traditional and prophetic things. That's why I didn't have to from one sangoma to the next. But I went to one place and the person was a pastor, right? So we went to church every Sunday, and even during the week, we would sing prophet like gospel songs and all that, but it was apostolic songs, right? We would do that, right? So going to church actually evokes your ancestors. There are a lot of people I know their spiritual gifts, and their ancestors say, no, don't go initiate, or don't go and barula moya warao, go to church, right? The reason why they do that is because the drums, the singing, the running around, the dancing, right? The spinning in circles. Actually, spinning in circles actually helps with the spiritual gift a lot. Honestly, when I found out that I was actually on there's some weird things, but a lot of things in spirituality are weird in my, like, from how I see it, right? But going to church on its own, especially when you have a prophetic gift, name, that is something that actually strengthens your gift in a way that you don't understand. Like, it cannot be explained. The fact that drums, everything about it, it actually strengthens your gift so badly, right? So when you're someone who's spiritually gifted, especially when needs a prophetic gift, I will always say go to church. Name. It doesn't have to be the same church, but always make sure that it's a church that accommodates both prophetic and traditional things. But if you only have a prophetic gift, then I'd say that go to a prophetic church alone, it's fine, right? But if it's a church you are governed by both spirits, then go to a church that actually balances and connects with all the spirits. Then when you're there, then you're going to actually evoke your spirits. That is why you find that people, when they're in church, they become very emotional. So others become very emotional, others can become very overwhelmed, and this overwhelming feeling can actually drive a person to run away, right? Because now that's what I did. Like I'd be in church, I'd be dancing, I'll be in my zone, right? And then all of a sudden I get overwhelmed, I get very emotional, I get like it feels very heavy in my chest, in my spirit. I feel very heavy, right? And automatically what that meant for me is that I have to run out and get some air until I calm down. And I'll literally just cry when I'm outside, right? But the thing is that you're not supposed to do that. You have to go there and feel everything until your ancestors are evoked. The more you allow yourself to be a church, connect and sing and dance and do everything, usually with apostolic churches. I don't know how other churches operate, if I'm honest with you, but I know what apostolic churches operate like this. But when this does happen, right, you're evoking your spirits, you're evoking your ancestors. This is whereas now when I went to church, there were a lot of prophetic spirits that were coming to me, right? And one thing I noticed was that after I stopped going to church so much, those prophetic messages stopped. My prophetic gift actually weakened to an extent, right? So I had to opt to actually do other things, like other things connect with my ancestors, like the food I eat, the mountains, going to the rivers, praying, meditation. Those are things that I replaced with going to church in order to actually strengthen my prophetic gift, right? Which worked for me. Like I'm able to work prophetically with ease, everything comes easily with me. But I do feel as though when you do go to church on a regular basis, that actually gives you way more spiritual power than actually opting for the other things that I do as a person, right? But given the fact that everyone has their own interests, everyone has their own things, it's fine, right? And also candles, right? The candles that you use or the number of candles that you use can either strengthen or put your spiritual gift at a standstill, right? So that personally, I often use seven candles, right? Seven is the number of my candles. It can be colored or not colored, depending on how I feel about it. But seven is a spiritual number. But this is actually not a complete spiritual. This is not the only one. There's also the number three in the candles, right? Three candles are good for connecting with spirits, even though they don't connect to a deep depth with your ancestors and your spirit. It's a spiritual number, but it's actually one of the lowest spiritual numbers, right? Then if you want to connect with more spirits, you will use seven candles, right? But when you're in your peak of your spiritual gift, name, this is whereas you're going to have to use 12 candles, name, because at some point, like your ancestors can tell you, because at some point I was using one, then I was told to use three, then I was told to use seven, and at some point they were like use 12, right? And the 12 candles, it was like the way that it came to me, or rather the way that it was explained, it was sort of like the candle number of connecting with God itself, right? Because remember that most of the times when we pray, we're connecting, we are speaking to God, but we're mostly connecting with the spirits, the ancestors, our angel guides, our prophetic ancestors, right? So the 12, the number 12, for my understanding, when it was shown to me, or rather when I was introduced to it, was actually that it is a number of connecting with God itself, right? And when I actually started using those number of candles, my visions became so clear that everything just happened. Like I'd really have a lot of deja vu. Like I'd wake up in the morning and not be sure if I had a dream or those things really happened. Like I would not even be sure. That's how intense the visions and the spiritual connection when you use those number of candles has on a person. Like you literally have this thing way longer, you wouldn't even be sure if you had a dream or things actually happened. And everything I'd actually dream would happen the way that it was, man. It will happen clearly without any like changes, anything that could actually be different. Like everything was just straight to the T, right? But with this one, I am gonna say it's good to be cautious, because with candles, like I said, for me, I was shown the first time I used one candle because I was just starting out with connect with my ancestors. Then I was told in a vision, in a dream, that I need to use three, right? Then as time went on, I was told to use seven, right? It was seven white. Then automatically as time went on, there were like seven different colors, right? And every single one of those colors had its own ancestor that I connected to at the time, right? They all had their own meaning, and most of the times they will have their own meaning, right? And after months of actually using 7 different color candles and having the spiritual clarity and spiritual growth, that is where as I was told to move to 12 candles, right? And that is where as everything became intense. That is where as like, yeah, the visions and the dreams became very intense. So with a lot of people, I would say that if you do want to use candles to strengthen your gift, at least finish up with 7 up until you are given the go ahead to use 12, because the one thing I don't want anyone to do is to actually tap into a higher level of spiritual gift whereas you're skipping other levels. Now it will be the same as going and initiating, whereas you still need to like strengthen and invite your ancestors first, because if you do that then automatically you will not be able to, like, your gift will be very overwhelming, very heavy. It can actually mess up with your mind to an extent whereas you feel like you're seeing things, you don't understand anything, so it can be very heavy. So everything I did mention here, the tips and whatnot, the ones like eating, meditating. Okay, with meditating, one thing I forgot to say, but when you do it, make sure your surrounding is cleansed, right? And also cleaning your environment, guys. Having a clean environment is very important. And the reason why I'm laughing is because I remember when I had to clean my like my room, but where I put my house, and I've been procrastinating it. But actually, a clean environment not only does it chase away negative energy and spirits, but it also invites a lot of ancestors. Like now, when I do spring cleaning, like most of the times I tidy up, it's clean. But when I do spring cleaning, guys, yo, the dreams and the visions I have, the clarity. The people that come to me and I'm just on some, your problem is this, without having to actually rack my brain around, it's intense. So that is also something that I would advise at the end of the day. But anyways, those are the tips that I have in terms of strengthening your gift. There were quite a few things, and unfortunately I didn't write them down. I was just going to do a quick recap on everything, but it was things like the food you eat, praying is also one of those things, talking to your, or praying, going to the mountains, going to different types of rivers. I mentioned 3 rivers that are good. I also mentioned meditating, going to church, cleaning your environment. So there are quite a number of things. So for those of you guys that just joined us, you look at the video from the beginning to the end. That way you'll be able to hear the other tips I had. But most importantly, one thing I do want to emphasize for those of our Bungaka guys who have Bungaka traditional gift, like using pepper to advantage. It's not just there to burn and call your ancestors. That muti, or rather that tree, that plant, is something that can actually connect you with your ancestors to a full extent. And grounding yourself by just walking around barefooted, that is grounding yourself. Sleeping on a straw mat, that is grounding yourself. Doing those minor things, as much as they can seem as though they don't do much, those are the things they actually strengthen your game. That is why when you're in initiation, they'll give you these rules and tell you don't eat meat, sleep on the floor, don't wear shoes, all those things, and you think, God, they're crazy. At first, I thought they were crazy. I don't want to lie. But those minor things, they actually ground you. And when you're grounded, it makes it easier for your ancestors and your spiritual guides to speak to you. So it strengthens your gift on its own without actually having to do any other additional things whatsoever. Yeah, so anyways, that is it in regards to the tips that I have for you today. We can jump into questions quickly, and this session was supposed to be an hour, so at 7:30, that is where as I'm gonna be leaving you guys officially. But if you guys are sorted, you don't have any questions, then I'll love and leave you guys now. But I'm gonna wait a few more minutes in case you guys have any questions, anything you want clarity on, anything you want to understand properly before I leave you guys. Yeah. Hi, bro. I'm dropping things. Okay, so it appears there are no. Okay, let me just wait. Someone told me that I'm not patient when I ask this. I need to learn to be more patient. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll wait. I'm looking for my match. Looking for my lighter. I can't even find it anyway. Okay, so I think I waited a minute. So if you guys don't have any questions, or rather you don't have anything you want to ask, even if it's not related to what we did speak about, I do hope that, however, this live session did help you guys in understanding how to strengthen your gift. I know that most of the things I've mentioned are very, like, you look at them and think, but this is not even a big deal. it is, because now speaking from my experience, when you're doing things like without even the use or needing to use muti, those are things that can actually strengthen your gift to an extent that you would never understand. And the minute you do them, you'll actually start seeing those positive changes, and they are gonna be good for you guys. They're gonna be great. Oh, but by the way, I was actually thinking I'm gonna make another live video soon, whereas I'm gonna do a visual catalog for my soaps and my lotions. So remember, it's soaps, it's lotions, with they're all with mutilite. I make them from scratch, add muti in them, just protect a person or bring other things there for luck, protection, money, come to me, removing blockages. So it's soaps, lotions, palo santo, sage, pepper, and also other herbs, like addition, like other herbs, like the ones that you buy over the counter, lady wash, or for cleansing, for protection, for luck, all those kind of things. So they are there, so you can see them on my catalog, but I will make a live session whereas I actually just go through them one at a time, so you guys see what we have there, because a lot of people feel as though I actually just browsed around it and I didn't give them any clarity on what it is that is there. So I'm gonna do that for you guys, and I'll probably do it somewhere next week or somewhere throughout the weekend. But anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this session. I hope you guys did too, and I appreciate you guys actually joining me and being around in this live session. I honestly love it. So yeah, tomorrow I'll be posting the daily prediction for the day, and yeah, I'm hoping to be posting another video actually on water initiation somewhere next week. I think on Monday I'll be posting that video, and then I'll be jumping to other videos on different spirits, other spirits that are there. But anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. Have you guys a beautiful one. Bye bye. Okay, so basically my struggle is getting off. I can't log off. Okay, I got it. Sure.